Oh, we got that off. I don't know what's going on with Ian's camera, but Ian is having difficulties getting on the stream tonight. So while he's working on that, we're going to start. Hello, Real Amigos. It has been, I don't know, like 5 weeks since we've done this. So welcome back. I'm glad to see everybody back in the comments. We got a fun show tonight. We're going to go over the proposed tax bill, see what that looks like, if it actually does anything. We'll go over that. I put out a questionnaire about new builds, and people want to know about new builds. So we'll talk about new construction in that video. I just don't have the time to put out full videos right now. It's been super busy personally. And then Round Rock, we're going to discuss Round Rock and then whatever you guys want to talk about. Number one, most important question being asked right now, thank you, Dinosaur D, is what are the lotto numbers tonight? And here we go. I mean, I think I added an extra number in here. I think there's only 5, but just for safety, I added 6 numbers in here. So, oh, there we go. Boom. Ian's back. Ian, do you agree with these numbers for tonight's lotto?
I mean, they're okay. They're okay. There's 2 or 3 that are off. You can't have that sequence in there. You can't have like the 33, the 41, and the 43. That's like bingo numbers.
I'm telling you, like, though, I mean, I don't make the numbers, you know. They're the numbers are the numbers. All right. So glad to see you, Ian. How is business for you?
Man, it's actually really good. It's picked up a lot. I think people are excited knowing about the things that we're going to talk about later today. The news has been positive. Rates, we can talk about that a little bit more, but people they're taking action. So I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, you know, so in the news, I look at small blips and I go, okay, is this a blip? And I kind of try to wait to make judgment on what's going to happen. But it looks as of right now, the Fed will, there we go. The Fed will most likely raise rates again when they meet at the end of this month. But the CPI numbers, the inflation numbers are promising is what they look like. As far as inflation goes, it could just be a blip, right? With as many predictions as I've made, I really should take more of a wait and see approach.
You make a lot of predictions. I think all of us do, but that's natural. That's natural.
Yeah, exactly. So the first topic we're going to go over tonight is the property tax bill. I want to hear from everybody in the chat about the property tax bill. I also want to hear, what are your thoughts about the market right now? Just drop some fun questions, man. It's been a while, so we're back. I'm excited about that. Welcome back, Ian.
You're funny.
All right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what about this property tax bill? I mean, first, I think we need to explain it to people that may not know what's going on.
Right. And if you are interested in what's happening in the housing market in Austin, my next video is going to be breaking down the housing numbers that came out today, because for all those people saying the market's going to crash, we just saw a pretty huge jump in values. But let's talk about property taxes first. We can talk about the housing market and the Austin market here in a second. But let's add this to the stream. Let's go this one. Does this one work? Nope, that cuts you out. Okay. So let's go back to here. Okay. There's Ian. So still don't like that one. Here we go. Boom. Okay.
There you go.
So the property tax bill that came out that they are looking to pass is an $18 billion plan. Remember, there's $27 billion in reserves. So that leaves, do some math there. That leaves $9 billion sitting to do something. But the biggest problem with our property taxes the biggest expense with property taxes right now is the fact that half of all the taxes or more than that goes to just the school districts. Okay. So that's a big expenditure from property taxes in Texas, especially when we're ranked 35th overall in schools.
Yeah.
I found this article and I thought I would pop this in because it makes a valid point for what we're spending our money on. So Texas just fell out of the top 5 ranking for best business cities. I think the biggest piece of this was life, health, and inclusion. I went through and read the things for this, and I think a lot of the reason why we're at number 50 has to do with the abortion rules that came out recently. So that's probably why we're down here. Same thing with Florida. Florida had a pretty low number, 41. But if you look at education on here, Texas is 35th. And so for us having being blocked out of the top 5 and spending so much on education and it being such a big piece of our taxes, you'd think that we'd have better school districts. The biggest problem with the school district taxes, like when you're in a district like Austin, half of that actually goes back to the state and then goes back for recapture. So you might have schools on the east side in Austin that don't get a lot of funds because they're on the east side of Austin. And that money goes back to the state and doesn't really go back to,
the city.
Needs to go, right?
The schools that need it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what this tax bill is, I'm trying to go back to the article I had. Where did I go? Is that one it? No. So what it was going to do, and I'll let you chime in a second here, is it gives you a $100,000 homestead exemption instead of a $40,000 homestead exemption. Somebody in the comments earlier said, well, if you have a $300,000 home, that drops what you're taxed to down to 200. That's true. It only gave, and there's a provision in there that the state will still pick up. Like if schools are short on funds, that it will pick up some of those expenditures so the schools don't lose money. Here we go. But then it only gave a 20% reduction, a 20% cap for non-homesteaded. So if you own investment properties, it only gave a 20% cap, which I think this is where I have a problem. It doesn't go far enough. I think the 100,000 is fine. But that still doesn't do enough for me. Cause in the reports, it was like, oh, we're saving most homeowners $1,200 to $1,800. I hate when they do that because they don't say based on a $400,000 home, you'll save $1,200 based on a 500. Like it would be nice if they actually gave the numbers of how they came up with that number for the average home. But 20% covering rentals. And so the pushback on the Democrat side here, based on a lot of what I'm reading on this, is it doesn't do enough for tenants. And Republicans on this, here's the cap right here. Republicans on this are saying, well, that'll get passed down from landlords having to pay less in taxes. Well, let me explain something. So one of my properties, it's doubled in price, even though the value isn't there, right? So they're valuing my property at $435,000. I could even sell it for $425 right now. So it's $100,000 more. I'm paying $9,000. So that means that they're going to cap next year, which would be another $1,500 increase. So now I'm paying $10,500 next year. Where does that go? Right? That goes on to the tenant. And so the Democrats on the side, and I'm not trying to get political here with that, but that's, if you're reading the articles, are saying it doesn't do enough for the tenants because it doesn't do enough to help tenants. And I agree. Jeremy and I didn't practice this, I swear. Oh, I'm reading it. But that doesn't do enough for me as a landlord. If my value still goes up and capped at 20% next year, because I still am passing that down onto the tenant. And so it doesn't really do much for the tenant. It doesn't do much for me. And I'll let you respond to this in a second, Ian. The second part of this that I think doesn't do enough is it doesn't really bring down the current values currently, right? So it doesn't automatically bring down your value. So you're not going to really see a ton of savings right now. It says it does, but I really didn't see where it was going to. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But I think the biggest issue for me, and Ian, you just have experience because you literally just went to a hearing. So I want to get your take on doing an actual tax hearing because you just did this week. But the problem is how they assess the values of properties. That for me is what has to get overhauled, because when I'm fighting my property taxes this year, they had no answer to me for how they were actually valuing my properties. So Ian, jump in here, man.
Okay, so the first thing I think that's relevant is, I don't know that everybody knows, but we talked about the schools being a huge tax burden, and some places, based on where you are, you're actually getting taxed in multiple school districts, from multiple school districts. So I think that's relevant. We've talked before about, well, if you don't have kids, how do you feel about paying so much in property taxes? So all those things are relevant. So I think this is a win. I think everybody feels like it's a win for Texas homeowners for sure. The recapture, that we've exhausted that topic, I think, a lot. So we don't need to talk about that. The 20%. So I like what you said about that's not enough, because you're right. If it goes up 20% for the next 3 years, if it's capped at 20% for the next 3 years, but you still have to offset those costs. That's a lot of money. Imagine if it goes up 60% in 3 years. People have been experiencing that in 2021 and 2022, the ones that didn't have their property tax, homestead exemptions. So, and you saw how that worked out. So that's the same thing here with investors. I think 20% is better, but it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I had another point I wanted to make about the property taxes, but you just went through and did a formal hearing with Williamson County, right?
Well, so that is actually really interesting, because right before I was going to go, I rechecked all my comps, looking at things that had sold, and turns out that my my appraised value was way lower than I was getting ready to go argue. And I said, oh, I'm not going to go do that. I'm not going to go give them ammo. Right. So I backed out of that hearing, but I was excited. I was ready. I was like, okay, let's go talk about this. And it changed recently. So I had going back to how the market's been going, I had a couple for that house that had spiked the appraised value. So
this is a good one, that Aaron, and I think this is where my other comment was going, was the rates will go up to make up for the loss of revenue. So this is really important to understand. So for those people that bought a new home build in the last year and you're at a 3% interest or 3% tax rate,
property tax rate,
property tax rate, what you're going to see to offset this $100,000 is they are going to raise the taxable rate. So this is what the schools always do. They're like, oh, we didn't raise the taxable rate this year. We decreased it, but they're assessing your property higher. So two things need to get fixed: the tax rate system, like how they actually do the tax rates, and two, what needs to get fixed, how they value properties. Those are the two things that have to get fixed, especially in Travis County. And this is where people are really getting hosed, is that how they assess your property is not clear. Trust me, I've been doing this for 9 years, selling homes, going back and forth, owning a property in Austin over 11 years, trying to fight property taxes 11 years. And I still don't fully understand it. And I make videos about it. I do research on it, and they make it purposely hard. So I think if they had put in legislation to give visibility to how your values actually are computed, because this year I had all these comps and they're like, this doesn't fit our model. Well, what the hell is your model? Show me your model. Show me what you're using. No, we can't do that.
That's not how the government works. Come on.
Yeah. Did the 100K exemption beat Abbott's plan? his was much more reasonable, decreasing the percentage of the ISD tax along with the 5% cap. I think that would have been I would have liked to see the numbers on both of these side by side. Because I
Hold on,
think
5% cap for regular consumers?
so this
Buyers?
is application for
Non-investment buyers.
homestead. Yes, for homestead.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So right now the cap is what, 10%,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's capped at 10%. So
Yep.
if they reduce that and then they reduce the percentage of the ISD tax, that I think would have been a little more effective and done more. And I think why they didn't come up with that, I do find it odd. And you tell me if I'm wrong for thinking this. There's a lot of celebration right now. If you read the comments, there's a lot of celebration about, hey, we did something historic. We did something historic. Personally, I've heard legislators say, we've done something historic and my healthcare is like triple the cost, right? This is a big deal. I kept hearing this is a big deal. So I don't know. I'm concerned that this doesn't do enough. Am I justified in that, Ian? And do you in the audience, am I justified in thinking that?
I think you have to, I don't know if you have to, but I think they're tackling things in segments.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a huge win for this segment. Property taxes has always been a big concern for people, especially that are coming from other states and relocating here to escape whatever they're trying to escape or to have a different lifestyle. And they get here and then they get hit with these property taxes thinking they were going to save X amount of dollars. So it's still a big win, but you're right. There's still, 5, 6, 7 other things that they can work on that will make things pretty good for people.
Yeah, and Aaron. So for anyone that doesn't know what Aaron's done, Ian has actually worked with Aaron and bought investment properties. But Aaron's really kind of hitting the nail on the head with his comments here. So pay attention to his comments; they're all very well done. But he says Joe Raspberry. Is that his Joe Raspberry? Hey, Joe, great
Love
name,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Jeremy Knight's a great name too, by the way. Ian Williams. I mean, we could work on that. Ian, what?
The benevolent beret is pretty good.
Yeah, I came up with that the first show.
That was good.
That was good. All right. The problem is that when a property is sold, it gives them more ammo to raise the appraisal. In a perfect world, there would be where no one moves is great. Realistically, you will move about every 7 years. And then he also said, just wait. I predict rent will go up about $500 to $700 a month in the next 24 months. Because had they tackled, like, here's the thing that's driving me crazy about a lot of the stuff we hear, Ian, is that it's all about affordability,
Yes.
about affordability.
Yeah.
But the approach, and we've talked about this, the approach of how we get to affordability isn't increasing supply. Right. So to increase affordable housing in Austin, there's no tax to increase supply. If there was a tax to increase supply, give some of these landlords or these people building these properties, all right, build tighter, and this is one of the articles that I had was there's a group that's really going after the city council, still saying they're not doing enough to get with supply. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the affordability with that?
I think there are a lot of issues that are affecting affordability that I don't know that we have time to go into that are relevant. So I'm going to give a super quick example for those of you that don't know. National Association of Realtors is going through a class action lawsuit that will affect realtor compensation. And so that tacked onto current interest rates, tacked onto property taxes, tacked onto all these different things, cost of living, everything is essentially going up. And so if people are buying these homes and then let's say they want to start building a portfolio for their family, it's already hard for them to get in and start doing that. And so that just has to be, some of those costs have to be passed on to people that are going to be renting. I don't know a good way to tackle rental affordability right now. Rental affordability.
Right.
Because here's the thing, ultimately, how many people want to buy a home versus rent a home? they're making it seems like a lot of people are making it easier to rent than to buy. And I think that's a problem. I think that's the bigger concern.
Right. I mean, look, we're both realtors, right? So we're going to tell people that one of the ways to gain wealth is by buying and selling properties over
Right.
the lifetime, right? I'll give you a short example. So I used to work at Costco for a very long time. One of my really, really good friends who just retired from Costco, just left. The salary he probably made throughout his lifetime at Costco per year was at most probably 70 grand a year.
Right.
They own about 10 to $11 million portfolio of real estate right now.
Excellent.
What they did is they just started buying apartment complexes, like rundown apartment complexes. They'd fix them up. I was talking with them in Florida last week. So I went to Florida and I was asking, they're like, yeah, we haven't paid taxes in like 4 years because we depreciate everything on our properties. Every time we buy a new property, we fix it up, we write off the costs on that. And so it's a depreciation and then we depreciate our properties. Like we haven't paid taxes in 4 or 5 years. And I asked him, I was like, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there. And this is why I made a video last week about Reventure, or this week. And I don't think people really cared for it, but oh well. If people like that were to explain to you the fact of buying these properties, I get they're not cheap right now, but the tax savings, what you could do, my friend who made literally 70 grand a year has a much higher net worth than I do just from buying and fixing up as many doors as possible. And then he went temporarily and worked for Grant Cardone he quit Costco, went to Grant Cardone just so he can make connections. That's it. The guy's leveling up. Right now they're putting together $15 million for a project. Like it's insane. And so it frustrates me that we live in a time where everybody's fear mongering a little bit more than they should. These people really should be trying to get money by trying to put together big REITs and things like that. I'd be smarter, but whatever. All right. I'm gonna get off that. Joe Raspberry said by decreasing the overall percent, it would actually help rather than an exemption. And I agree, where the county district can just raise appraisal value and nullify any savings. I think that's my biggest issue with what is going on here.
Oh, just lowering the actual property tax rate.
Yeah.
Rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron's been saying this for a long time. Aaron's going to start a YouTube channel called Black Swan Student Loan Debt.
That's a good one.
All he's going to do is go and he's going to create an app.
Let me get the domain. Hold on.
Yeah. He'll create an app that he's going to then sell to people. People are like, oh, the apps are free. People advertise, right? So, Aaron's going to get a ton of advertising and just talk about, can I copyright that? Yeah. Just give us credit. 1% is all I need. And we'll be good. I'm not greedy, just 1% for the idea. But here's what I was talking about when it came to the land. So, Austin-based organization focused on addressing the city's affordability crisis are calling on city officials to expedite lifting restrictions on residential development in the city. Yes. So, really what this is trying to get to the fact is, cost, precision, time, and is a life near the core of the city becomes increasingly less attainable for the city's working middle class. And that's because you don't have affordable actual housing, homes to buy, homes to actually move into. They're making rentals. This piecemeal changes includes a plan to introduce a new zoning category that would allow a denser development, a new subsidy-free density bonus program, a new capability standard for city, and new opportunities for creating accessory dwelling units and existing properties, AAK granny flats. How do you feel in the comments? I want to hear from you, Aaron, especially you. How do you feel about loosening the rules on ADUs, accessory dwelling units, granny flats, all that stuff? I have so many clients ask me about that. I want to buy a home with this. I'm like, there's not very many available. Most of the amendments are not expected to be implemented until 2024, 25, leaving developers waiting in the wings to take advantage of the new tools. We urge we urge you to push staff to act swiftly in implementing changes such as parking reform, reducing capability, eliminating occupancy limits, and dozens of other code amendments, many of which were approved unanimously by the council, said Abby. So really, all right, and here you go. But for those levels compared to the median prices of 335 in the Metro 407 for the city of Austin from May of 19 to the prior COVID, and buyers having lost significant purchasing power in recent months because of heightened interest rates. So yeah, basically they're saying what we've been saying a while, right? That it's unaffordable, and part of it has to do with not having as much inventory. But I digress.
I love the idea of loosening those restrictions without making them completely ruleless, right? I think that thinking about the demographic of people that are boomer age versus the millennials that need to have affordable housing so that they can buy these houses, and just knowing that having that space, if they were to use it as a granny flat, which I know many people won't, but if they did, that's a very, very solid use case for people. There are a lot of boomers that can sell their property if they're able to move in and still have a separate living space with their family. That's huge. That would be huge. That would tie up a lot of real estate in Austin. I'm sorry, untie a lot of real estate in Austin.
I would say the flip side of that coin is we have a $7-10 billion train to nowhere as of right now.
Yes.
If we go denser, you're going to absolutely have to have more public mobility.
We needed that anyway. We already needed that. So I'd be grateful for more public transportation. I think that's fantastic. Also, you think about the houses, if they are unaffordable, yet you could rent out a granny flat or a ADU for a portion of your rent, let's say a third of your mortgage.
Yep.
That is fantastic. That now makes that home affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want somebody in the back of my current home, but my other rental properties, if I could stack units and put more tenants in there, I would.
This isn't for you. This is for the people buying their first home.
Yeah,
and they need help. It's perfect.
Yeah, what's interesting though, like right now, we have a client right now that's looking for specifically a home with an ADU because they have a family member that's going to live with them.
Yes.
And so the only ones available right now are with a company that starts with the letter L for loser.
That's not the only ones, but yeah, they're the primary.
And they're not happy about potentially buying one of those. So I understand. But the other ones are not cheap and they're really hard to find. There's only one community that I know of that actually has them right now, and it's not cheap. And the property tax rate's 3%. So, and you're going to get taxed on that ADU as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. It's income.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. So we just bought another property and we did a 1031 exchange on it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I could put money in the stock market or I could buy another property, and the property is going to pay me $2,400 a month for whatever. Like that's probably more than I'd make really last year. Like my stock stuff lost a little bit of money. Like everybody's stocks lost money last year, but with doing a property, it's income. Right. And it's what annoys me that people don't look at it that way. The biggest problem in America is the fact that we don't teach kids young in school how to do finances and actually like investment strategies. I really wish we taught that in high school. Before that, but it's a hill I'll die on, I guess. Here's the problem. If you don't lower rates, here's the problem. If you don't lower rates, how will you get people with 2.5, 30-year fixed to move? It's a huge, huge problem because they don't want to go from 2.5% to 7% is what he's saying.
That is a problem. That is a problem. However, we talk about this, people move for love or money. Something is going to happen in their lives that will cause them to move. The people that aren't going to move, I think the people that impacts the most are the people that are just going to stay within this area. But people that are relocating to Alaska or wherever like that, I don't know why I said Alaska, but places like outside of Texas or even to Dallas or Houston or whatever. Like those are the people, this isn't going to affect them. If they find an opportunity or need an opportunity or fall in love or get divorced, they're going to go where family is anyway. So that shouldn't stop them. And if they had an ADU to go bum, then go rent, they would do that. They don't have that as an option. So I do think that it matters. I don't think it's the holy grail or anything.
Right. Yeah. And I think this is the same thing. All right. So let's talk about what's happening with new construction then, right? Because there's a lot of news coming about new construction. I did the numbers yesterday, Ian.
Yeah.
32% of the active inventory on the market is new construction in our 5 counties, is new construction. 28% of what's closing is new construction. And when I say new construction, I do 2022 and newer. I add 2022 and newer, because some of those, if you actually look at them, are still vacant properties that haven't been sold, or they're brand new properties that maybe somebody bought and didn't move into.
Yeah.
Okay. So 28% of what's closing right now is that. So like less than a third is actual new construction. But, and this ties into interest rates. So let me pull this back up. So in Austin, we actually have a lot of building going on. The thing is, last month we had the builder confidence score go up. And the builder confidence score went up for a couple of reasons. Number one, builders are finding it easier to sell homes. Interesting. It went from 50 to 55. And so the builder confidence score is basically just a survey from all of the builders out there. And they go, yep, we're feeling better about the market. I remember in January, I went to an event with Highland Homes and they were high and mighty and, oh, this year is going to be amazing. Hasn't been as great as they thought maybe.
When they say easier to sell homes, I think they've just figured out new ways to market that excites buyers. That's it.
So, right. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just had a closing and they bought down their rate. They didn't spend, I think they spent $10,000 or so to buy down their rate, but then the builder brought their rate down, and the lender bought their rate down. And so when they walked out of there, it was like a 3.6 or something crazy. I'm like, whoa, right now, 3.6, new construction, beautiful, beautiful home. So it's just being creative with the financing strategy. It worked out real well.
Right. And so this is where the builders are finding success, right? Because the builders partner with lenders, right? You're still paying a lot in fees for the, well, I recommend that if you are going to go to a builder, you always get a second opinion when it comes to, and every good realtor that you're working with, if they are good, should tell you to get a second opinion with another lender, because then they can actually show you where the fees are high or low or, just right. You could do the 3 little bears with it, right? But to your point, this is where builders are finding confidence, because if I'm a home buyer, and I made this point a while ago, but if I'm a home buyer and I'm looking at a property at 500,000 at 7% interest rate, and I go into a builder and that property is 525, 550, but they're giving me a 4.9 interest rate instead of the 7% where we'll look at rates as you talk, I'll pull up rates. Well, of course, I'm going to go buy the new home and I'm going to go buy and get the better rate. On the flip side, if you are a buyer buying in a new construction neighborhood, Ian, what's the one thing I always say to be careful about?
Property taxes?
Property tax rates. Yeah. So if you are one of those people that's going, okay, I'm going to go into a builder and I'll go with the builder. I've seen this a lot recently, man. And it really bothers me. 2 builders in particular do this a lot. They advertise 1.9% interest rate. It's tax rate. Tax rate's 1.9%. You sign all the documents. Hey, by the way, there's a PID, but it's okay. Yep. Don't worry about the PID. Okay. There's a PID.
Don't worry about it.
But it's 1.9 tax rate. The PID is 15 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. It's like a Melrose. So you actually still have utility taxes.
Bait and switch, man. Best bait and switch.
Right. So you're still paying $300 more a month than you would have thought you were, because you're paying off the PID, which is 15 grand.
Well,
20 grand or whatever.
The problem is people are going in with, forget the realtor thing, but they're going in and they don't know what they're doing. They think they know what they're doing, and then they get hooked because they see this beautiful house nobody's there to tell them otherwise because the builder wants to sell that house. And you're caught.
Right.
You're caught with
Right.
this crazy property tax. Oh,
Right.
sorry, it's not a property tax. It might be a PID.
A PID, right? It's still a tax. It's still a utility district tax, or payment. So, all right. So that's something to be careful of if you are. I mean, I highly recommend you work with an agent. But the other thing is, those people that are going into new builds and doing that 550 because they're getting. What if they're looking at a neighborhood that doesn't have new construction? Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think those people get jaded because we've been talking about 7% interest rates. We've been talking about how high the interest rates are. I think it's good to work with a lender and get the numbers for buy downs, because if you're looking at homes that are on the market more than a couple weeks, I'd be asking for 10, 15 grand to do my buy down to get me a 4.9, maybe get you a 2-1 buy down. Because what's the thing everybody's talking about still is that interest rates are coming down. I have an article here. I'm going to do a full video for next week, breaking down like this whole interest rate thing. Our interest rate is going to be falling. So if you're doing a 2-1 buy down and you have, a lower rate for 2 years, and I don't like the saying, marry the home, date the rate, but this is one of those scenarios where that might be beneficial. You really need to do the numbers and make sure for yourself that doing a 2-1 buy down. So buy down would be like, you get a 4.9% interest rate for 2 years and it goes to 7%. Or whatever the current market rate is for the interest rates, right? So if interest rates go up, then and that's where people got in trouble, is they did, those loans where it was, I forget the term of it, but it was like a 5-1. And then it goes to like, you had like 3.2% and now you're at 7% interest rate. Right. And so it's the same thing as getting that tax bill after their first year for new construction. So builders are still building. The challenge is I don't see affordable, like looking at the market. I don't see a lot of new construction close in under 500. What are your thoughts?
No, agreed. 100%. I think it's hard to find what you would call affordable considering the median income, I think is how we say it. Like, what's the income of the area for a single person? If you have a dual income, that doesn't really count, right? But for a single person, would it be affordable for them to purchase this home? There are a lot of ways to get them into the house, but with their payments will probably be high, right? If everybody's paying everything for you to get into the house, it's not going to be good.
Right. And so the question then becomes, if you are looking at new construction or you're considering buying the last half of the year, which you guys see in my Tuesday video next week, we're going to talk about prices. Should you still buy new construction or buy resale?
Dude, I've got a client, I've got a walkthrough tomorrow morning, and I'm like, you can buy this, the one that starts with an L that has an attached ADU, and you can live in the ADU, rent out the rest.
Thank you. ARMS. For some reason, I could not think of the word ARMS, even though I have two attached to me.
Yeah. Also, we talked about PID earlier, but we didn't mention that there's a high probability that the PID decreases over time. It just takes a long time.
Right. Well, so because the PID does decrease because you're paying it off every month, right? So if the PID's a $15,000 PID, they have it for X amount of years at $300. So like one of the neighborhoods I looked at here in Dripping Springs is like a 1.89 tax rate. I'm like, oh, it's amazing. They're like, oh, but there's a $300 a month PID. I'm like, well, how long is the PID for? 5 years. And I did the math. I'm like, it was like $17,000 PID or whatever it ended up working out to. I'm like, so they're still got to pay $17,000 back to the developer for developing the land. Am I right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So the question still, do you buy new construction or do you buy resale? I think this is one of those things that if the property lines up, it fits all the needs, the payments make sense. Again, it's time in the market. Aaron's going to agree with me on this. Time in the market. You can't necessarily time it that great, but if you did buy, I would hold for 7+ years. I wouldn't make this a 2-year sale. And I think this is where we had such issues during the pandemic, is everybody treated properties like high-end watches. You just flip them on up. And that's where we ran into issues. Speaking of,
I think your use case is highly relevant when you ask that question. And I don't think everybody understands that. For example, if you want a large lot with beautiful trees in a school district that's been tested and didn't just get created last week, you can't buy a new construction, right? Like you have to buy a resale. Do you want your rooms to be a 9 by 9 square foot room for 600,000, or do you want to have, like a 20 by 10 foot room, 4 of those? You want to have a 3,000 square foot, 8,000 square foot house. Like you can often get more size, land, stability for your money closer to the city as the home ages, right? So the new construction resale thing that's a very tough conversation because everybody's different in that regard.
Yeah. It's really easy for people to say Austin sucks. Love to see why you've, the whole comment section is for you to discuss why Austin sucks. San Diego, double, triple value.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So again, I'm not going to tell you what to do as far as buying new construction versus resale. I'll say there's benefits to both.
The person that said Austin sucks, did you own property here or did you rent here?
I don't even know if they live here. I get a lot of people that are from California just don't like Texas because of all the news, so they just write angry comments. So I never know. Yeah. I never know. And I get told how terrible I am for being a realtor. You know what I should do, Ian?
I have too. Like you
know what I should do, Ian?
I was like, what's that?
I should convince people that the market's crashing, create an app to sell stuff to people, and then just create an app. And then people and
send reports out every week that show how it's crashing.
Yeah. Even though the numbers aren't lining up or the numbers actually make sense or any of that, I should do that. I should just lie to people. Yeah, it's good.
Right. It's a method for sure. This is it's a free market.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. New construction. What was our last thing? Round Rock, Texas. Moving on to Round Rock, Texas. In the news the other day, it was announced on whatever morning show that was. What morning show is that, Ian?
I don't know. I remember the article, but I don't know. See, who knows?
Let's see. Here we go. I got it right here. That's called propaganda. Laugh out loud. What's propaganda? See, you can't see this article now. Hold on. So Round Rock, Texas named #1 best place to live by whatever morning show that was. I don't watch morning shows. By live. What the fuck was it?
Livability?
No. In what might be a surprise, Round Rock has been crowned #1 place to live in America, according to a recent assessment by Bankrate. Okay. The way I'd read it, it was some morning show had just put out some news about it. While Citrus, Texas is around 120,000 residents, sits atop the list. Austin didn't even crack the top 10. Round Rock won the top spot for the variety of reasons, including its low relative cost of living, tech jobs, high residents' well-being rates, and abundance of public parkland. The city headquarters of Dell and companies like Switch and Emerson are well established there. Drop in the comments below if you think Round Rock is the best city to live in and around the Austin area. I want to get your thoughts on that. Bankrate's assessment says 80% of Round Rock residents living within 10-minute walk to a public park. Defying the everything's bigger in Texas stereotype, Round Rock's cost of living comes in significantly lower than the national average. The city's population is projected to grow over 75,000 people. Round Rock doesn't even have a Costco, by the way. Round Rock and Arlington rank #6. Round Rock and Arlington rank at #6, where the only 2 Texas cities to make the list. The top 10 include cities like Sarasota, Florida, Tacoma, Washington. Maybe this is a different article. Tuesday. Oh, this is from April. Yeah, that's from April. But that was, I think, Good Morning America. Or The View. It was The View. It was like Good Morning America or something like that. So what are your thoughts? I want to get your thoughts is it better than Dallas? Rebecca lives in Dallas. Is it better than Dallas, Round Rock? Let's hear from you in the comments. It's not even the best around Austin. I think best place around Austin is probably Cedar Park currently.
Well, so best is so relevant, right? Mm-hmm. Or like relative to the person you're talking to. So remember, I think in 2017, right before the pandemic, Round Rock was fourth safest city in the United States. I remember that was their claim to fame. It's like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And then the sheriff got busted for, I don't know, his cops TV show where he was abusing people, and then he got indicted. There was all this stuff. It's like, okay, well, how safe was that? And what are they actually telling you? So schools, you talk to people that are in Round Rock that have their children in schools, and they're going to say something different than what the media portrays. And I'm not skewing it either way. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. I know teachers that worked in Round Rock ISD. I have an agent that she used to work at Round Rock ISD, and she couldn't wait to leave. But that's because of the style of learning that her kids needed. And that's not, but it ends up kind of blowing up in the media. So the school, I think, is really important. Houses, a lot of houses in Round Rock are 80s, 80s, 90s. And then the new construction, you're hitting your 3.2 tax rate. It says Round Rock address. It's Hutto School District. If you don't know that. Like there's all these little things that are factors in there. And so people are like, oh, I'm buying a house in Round Rock. It's like, yeah, but none of the things that you thought you were getting are actually happening.
That's actually a really good. That's actually a really good point. As you say this, I'm going to bring up niche.com and am I doing it on here? Here.
And so Cedar Park, they have some nice parks. The topography is nice. The school ratings have been pretty high. But here's the thing about Cedar Park is Leander and that place that shall not be named. What's it called? Travesty. What's the name of that neighborhood?
Travesty. That's a good one.
So that is all lumped into Cedar Park ISD school ratings when it has its own schools. Like it's not the same, but people don't. They treat it like it's the same. They say, oh, Cedar Park, I'm going to be good. Oh, Round Rock, I'm going to be good. There are places in Round Rock that people do not want to live. There are places in Cedar Park that people do not want to live or can't afford to live.
I mean, here's looking at the schools. This is rated by niche.com. You take what you want from niche.com. Sometimes I don't necessarily agree with school ratings on some of these, but that's just me. But if you look at it, the Round Rock ISD, which is what Round Rock is touted for, you're right. It doesn't necessarily cover all of Round Rock, but it also goes all the way over to right next to Cedar Park.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. And then it covers the Brushy Creek.
Austin. Like you have a Round Rock address with an Austin house, Austin ISD. Right. You can have Round Rock address in Cedar Park ISD. You can have Round Rock address.
Look at McNeil High School. McNeil High School is rated an A.
Nice. And you can do Round Rock with the Georgetown ISD. You can do all of them. Pflugerville too. You can do Round Rock with the Pflugerville ISD. That's the thing. It's like this amalgamation melting pot.
Yep. Let's see what everybody's saying about it. Jobs. All right. Round Rock is closer to Domain and Dell. Yes, there's a lot of jobs in the Wells Branch area. Tech Ridge and Domain aren't too far away.
Yeah, but Tech Ridge is not Round Rock, right? Correct. Domain is not Round Rock. It's close. I will give them that. It is so close in proximity that you can hop on 45 and get almost everywhere in 15 minutes, depending on where you're positioned in Round Rock.
Mm-hmm. I would just say my experience driving in and around Round Rock, once you get off I-35, it is pretty congested still. And it really, it's you have to get further away from I-35 and it gets a little bit better. But if you're trying to travel from Round Rock to downtown or Round Rock to Dell, not to Dell, but to the Domain, it's a little bit of a drive. And then you got to pay for tolls, right? You got to go down the 45, you got to go down or take surface streets across. So that becomes a problem, or go all the way down to 183 and then come back up if you don't want to pay tolls. So that becomes a problem. But I mean, Round Rock's always been in the top 10 list pretty much every year. And so that list was by Good Morning America, and they said it beat out Sarasota, Florida. Fun fact, I was just in Sarasota, Florida, because somebody's looking for more investment properties. And Sarasota was, I went to a bunch of different cities, and Sarasota probably was my favorite of all of them, but I don't want to live on the Gulf. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Is that north of Tampa?
South.
South of Tampa. Okay.
Big time. Big time. Indeed. Wells Branch is I think Wells Branch is highly underrated.
Yeah, it's a good area. It's a solid area.
Yeah. Wells Branch is highly underrated. I live east of 130 and I love it. Where does he live out? Is that like near Siena? Is that it? You don't have to say, but you say
South
where.
of there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The cool thing about being near 130 is that 130 fastest speed limit in the United States, and you can get to Austin very quickly. So you can if he can hop on 130 and get down to the airport in 25 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't do that in Dripping Springs. You can't do that in Cedar Park. So you can't do that in West Georgetown. It has to be along 130.
I mean, Joe makes a good point. Round Rock Donuts, IKEA, Jam 35, and some janky outlets. Round Rock.
No. Round Rock Donuts is everywhere now. They have a couple other spots. So they have one in Cedar Park.
So Joe, you are forgetting Kalahari, the Round Rock Express. There's a golf course.
How about Old Settlers Park?
Old Settlers Park. It's next to Pflugerville.
That's not a win.
It's going to be close. It's going to be closer to the new Samsung plant.
They're building the district. I don't know where that's at, but they're building that in Round Rock. That's a pretty big deal. A lot of the things that, so if you look at Austin, they had a lot of stuff that was being built up downtown. And then those restaurants that were successful, they were like, let's put one in the Domain. And they said, okay, that's great. And then the next spot they started putting them is Round Rock. And so in Round Rock, you have your Via 313s, your Amy's Ice Creams. You have like all that stuff popping up in Round Rock now. So it's kind of interesting.
It's closer to college. It's closer to Dallas.
It is closer to Dallas.
Just kidding. Yes, 108 out at the ball game. Sounds great. My kids are grown. You can't pay me to go near Kalahari. Kalahari seems like fun. I have like gift certificates to go to Kalahari, but I've still never gone. Instead, I put a pool in, so I don't have to be around people.
Kalahari, if you want a mediocre piece of $15 pizza, that's where you go. You go to Kalahari.
That's funny.
True.
I wonder, let me pull the, you keep talking there. I want to pull the housing stat numbers for Round Rock and see where it comes in at right now. Let me look. Keep talking, Ian. Talk about Round Rock some more.
A lot of hospitals. So it means
the Dell Children's Hospital.
You have the Dell Children's Hospital. You have a Seton Ascension. You have Baylor Scott and White. You have I think a wing of Austin Regional. So you have a ton of hospitals and residents there. You have a lot of colleges. You have is it one of the Georgetown colleges? Like a satellite of one of the Georgetown colleges, I think, is there. So
the question is Round Rock the best city in Austin? Because apparently it's the best city in the nation. Is Round Rock the best? You in the comments, our friends here, right? Is it the best in the nation? Is it the best in Austin? I want to hear from you. So here's the market stat numbers. Sorry, D, I got to get you out of here for a second. So this is what I typically like to look at as far as looking at, if you look at Austin, now these numbers get skewed. It's something I think people need to understand. These numbers get skewed, but right now they're saying the median's around 410. For existing home is 413, and buying new construction's 406. Oh man, I don't even know about that.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I could see it. I could see you getting a new, but here's the question. Like what's the builder and what's the size of the home that you're getting for 406? Is it a 1,300 square foot house? because the numbers don't tell you that, right? It just says you get a house, or
Let's
that's
see.
the median.
Let's see. Still on screen,
And I think
right?
builders
Okay.
can get away with that. I think they can get away with, I'll call it cutting corners, because people see the writing on the wall that says Round Rock's great. And so people are going to want to buy there anyway, and they're going to do what they can to make it happen.
Okay, so here's Round Rock. Brushy Creek's not really Round Rock, but
It is.
it shows up.
Some
I
of
mean,
it.
Yeah.
Brushy Creek is half of it.
1.2 million for a brand new home in there. So that's for a new home. We're looking at 5. What does that get us? What does 449 get us? 1,300 square feet.
That's what I said.
Oh, I wonder what the taxes are in here. Let's look.
It's probably a 2. Oh, is that a new construction?
1.9?
Yeah, 2.
Who's a builder on this?
Round Rock's really good at that. I'll give them that one. Because you also have the upper Brushy Creek mud, which is very low. It's like 0.00 something percent.
Man,
instead of paying like crazy property taxes, Round Rock really good. Generally really good on property taxes if you know where to look.
If you know where to look. And that's why it's good to have a really good real estate agent helping you. Let's see, over here towards the east side in Homestead at Old Settlers Park, 550 for 2,500 square foot.
Is that a Meritage?
2.6.
Yeah. I know
Meritage home. Yeah. So 2,500 square feet, 550. So that's, I guess I better go look back at this number. Hold on. What was this number? What is that to give you square foot? That's price per square foot. It doesn't give you the median size.
No, they don't want to give you that.
No. So, but it's also 257 a square foot at 406. The average price is 460. I just established that it is hard to find something for that price in Round Rock right now.
Yeah. I think the price per square foot is still lower than Cedar Park.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is where they're trying to say, because even way out here, oh my gosh, this is, what neighborhood is this?
Is this Sienna?
No. Not University Heights, is it? It's 2.09. That's not bad. Scott Felder.
Yeah, I just
was. And here's the other thing with that new construction stuff. Look at the price history. I love this stuff. Show you live on air.
Yeah.
New started at 641, 646. So it went up. Then to 609, then to 604.
So for those of you that don't know, in a community where they're building new homes, for every X number of homes they sell, they raise the prices of all the homes.
So I believe, it says Salerno. So next to Salerno is a KB. You can get 409. Oh, did you?
It's not that exact house, but very similar. Same neighborhood and everything.
Man, is KB selling to investors out there?
Dude, yes. So I just got it accepted.
2.84 though. Ugh.
Hey, it is. But they're giving the farm away on this one. For us, for this situation. It's a particular situation. It's a cash purchase. We're doing pretty well with it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. I heard you spoke in a class today. I sure did. Thanks, Kristina. It's good to see you. Yeah. So basically, it's exactly 14,300 a year in taxes. I forget which one he was talking about. But for most of those, that's how much the property taxes would have been on all of those properties. So that's why this tax bill still doesn't do enough. Rebecca, you've read probably stuff about the tax bill. I want to hear you're a Texas real estate agent in, I think, Dallas or near the area. In Dallas? Yeah. What are your thoughts on the tax bill? We were talking about that's passed. Joe Stacho, I agree. I would rate it about the same. He said, Kyle, Cedar Park, Dripping Springs, Pflugerville.
Stop it with Kyle. Don't do that.
You stop it with Georgetown.
You stop it with Kyle.
It's interesting. So I looked at like where all the sales were, and they were all up towards Liberty Hill and then down in Kyle.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's just because of the price points. That's it. Very simple, right? People for a while that was the affordable homes until they until they started paying attention to tax rates. And then they were like, whoa.
What's interesting? Jaden, you just might be a good clip here, Jaden, wink, wink. But we just made a really good point here because we just showed you what the median prices were, right? So the median price for a brand new home in Round Rock was around 409. We found maybe 3 or 4 homes out of 53 that were actually at or around that price point. Everything else was in the 500s, mid 500s. So I think that shows you that the numbers can be manipulated because right now there's nothing closing under that based on what we have on the market. Right? Ian?
Oh, I mean, I need to see more. It was a little
You need to
blurry.
see more.
I'm using my phone. I realize
man.
I'm using my phone. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I'm as I'm going through this little neighborhood right here.
Okay, let me talk about that one for a moment. So that neighborhood in particular, that builder in particular, they are notorious for putting things on. I don't know about notorious for it, but in this case, they'll put something on there, and then that's with incentivized prices, but they still have wiggle room. They may still have. It depends on the situation. So if you're looking at these numbers, that has nothing to do with what they're going to close at. And so what they close at is what we're getting for our numbers each month.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not seeing that just because you see that number at 514 or whatever it was. That's not what it's going to close at. Almost guaranteed. Taylor Morrison, same way. They don't even share their. They don't even put it on the MLS what they close at. They just don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem too, because we don't really get totally accurate data either, even though it's tried to get accurate data. Because I think if we were to able to poll, and builders had to provide to the districts to pull our data, the off market closed, that would really help us get a better gauge of what prices actually are, plus or minus the median, right? Because those off market sales, we never know what they actually sell for. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, welcome to the channel.
Right.
I'm impressed that you're here, but AOC says, thoughts on all the growth and business going on in Kyle. This made me think of
from the places that they couldn't afford to build in to begin with, which is everywhere else but Kyle.
Like Round Rock.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I think we need to get the mayor of Kyle back on the horn and back on the channel, because that was a very fun. But man, Kyle's building so fast. They're building so much. The problem I run into is somebody in the comments the other day wrote something about, I was going to buy a home for $698 in Kyle. I'm like, dang, like it just seems like so much to me to be buying in the Kyle area for that price. Like Anthem's got really high prices.
I was going to say, Anthem's a cool community though. I mean, listen, it's better than the rest of Kyle. So the thing about Kyle is that it's along a growth corridor. It only makes logical sense that because it's along 35 on the way to San Marcos, it will grow. It makes sense.
So the benevolent Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, hey, you put AOC, not me, so it's on you. Would also love for you guys to bring the mayor of Buda on and ask why they're so anti-growing. Ooh, I think AOC lives in Kyle and is part of that board. Mm-hmm. Did you make a move? I'm just kidding. We're giving you a hard time. It's okay. I would love to have the mayor of Buda on. You got to understand, the mayor of Kyle reached out to me because I said things about Kyle that he wanted to set the record straight. So if you know somebody in Buda that wants to get the mayor on, I've actually talked to and tried to get Kirk Watson on here. And that was when he was running for mayor. I don't know that he'd come on now, but even the people that I know that know him would love to get him on the channel. So maybe one day the mayor of Austin will come on. So
we had Verdon on.
We did. I don't know if Celia's campaign reached out. I don't know. I didn't take it seriously because I wasn't sure if it was 100% her campaign or just somebody that said they were with the campaign reached out. And I was like, yeah, sure. And it didn't sound legit. Like she was actually like, it was real. And I reached out to Kirk Watson. So yeah, we'd love to see. So circling back to the taxes, the new tax cuts, I know they are increasing the amount of homestead exemption and cutting the school taxes. They just didn't mention when. Okay. All right, there you go. Ian, say something to the people.